How many of you knew about Steve Wozniak? Okay, please. Not all of us, of you, but how many of you knew about Steve Jobs? Why? They were together. Apple was born by those two men. Why we know Jobs better than Wozniak?
Marketing.
Well, I had the time to go deep to this question. In fact, I was lucky. I had a chance to spend a few years in Palo Alto area at Stanford University. So I had the chance to know many people there, make friends, visiting companies, and especially Lockheed Company. I don't know if you know Lockheed Company. It doesn't exist any longer because now it's Lockheed Varieties. But for aerospace, for sophisticated weapons, for anything that allows you to develop sophisticated tools. And the father of Steve Wozniak was an engineer at Lockheed. And so one day he came to his office with some kind of a wood box with some kind of wire around and showing that kind of box to his colleagues in a proud way because it was developed by his son and was just the Apple prototype, the Apple I prototype. At Lockheed, nobody realized the power of that. But why? Because they were all technicians only. And they said, oh, there is no market for these things, right, for sure. And in fact, they didn't know Steve Jobs. The other side of the coin. Steve Jobs was an outstanding businessman and an outstanding marketer. That's the reason everybody knows about him. Even more, he was able to just develop his entity as something to be venerable. Wonderful business job. You know what Wozniak did more than that? Because at a certain time, Wozniak and Jobs separated. So, did you hear about Wozniak any longer? Yes, no? No, not for sure. Well, Steve Wozniak, I think, has to be remembered as the most talented engineer to develop video games. Video games. He started all the video game industry. And nobody knows about that. You have to be really specialized, to have a specific technical knowledge to know that. Why I'm telling you this kind of story? Because the knowledge we talk about has to be always intended as an inside knowledge and outside knowledge. From outside, you see just the superficial knowledge. The outside knowledge is something really polite, clean, lightning. So if you refer mind, mind uses labels, concepts. If you think about body, you go to the substance of the story. So, but if you have to know the body, you have to go inside. If you stay outside, you see only the concept, the clean facade of the story. And so, it's the same for companies. If you see a company from outside, you see the power of the company, how they are smart, what wonderful product they developed. If you are inside, you see all the company limitations, all the company problems. And I would like to just to focus your attention on this double side of the story. It's just another Cartesian dichotomy. If you see only one part of the story, you lose information. You have to know both of them together to have a better idea of their interface. And there is the real information that you can use. And so there are many things we can talk about, but again, one important point that Gary just put on our attention is that our thinking, inside thinking, outside thinking. Outside thinking, we transfer information as humans only by representations. That's the only way we can transfer information. Just representations. And as you will see tomorrow in my presentation, objectivity and subjectivity, I will have just a little time to go deeper into this subject. But the point is that, again, if you have to transmit an outside representation, then we have to use a linear scenario. Otherwise, our mind is unable to grasp all the relationships. But the inside is not linear at all. It's folded, it's articulated, it's aggregated. And so, as I try to explain in my book that sooner or later I try to finish in a few weeks, but a preliminary version you can download from Amazon. Its title is Creativity Mind. I try to focus that every time you try to grasp something, you try to create a representation, even if you don't realize that you lose information from the real thing. And so that's the real point. And then the information that you can grasp is always double-sided. A linear part that you can transmit, a non-linear part that you retain for yourself. That's the human condition. And that's the concept of folding and unfolding that Bloom was referring to. And so I try to make that clear in my book, that every time you try to build a representation, you have to be aware that you lose part of information. And then you have to be able to design which part of information you want to lose. It's something that you have, just to play with ignorance, but in a aware way. Okay.
Thank you.